In this video, I'll talk about how we finished the flat roof on my dacha, why one of my builders walked out on me, where to find the best crew for the job, and what serious and not so serious mistakes I made with my roof.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright.
Hi everyone. At the end of the previous episode, the situation was as follows. The I-beams had been made, lifted onto the house, and secured in place. My builders, the ones I originally hired for the house, said they were afraid to climb up on those beams and close the roof from above. So they suggested the following. First they said, let's sheath the bottom of the beams with 1-inch boards from below. Then throw insulation into them, and then we'll start closing up from above. Like it would be easier to walk on top that way, because the underside is sheathed and you won't fall through too far. Honestly, I couldn't picture what this would look like. Where the vapor barrier would go in that setup, and I just didn't understand the idea. But I understood very clearly that if we first laid insulation into the beams from above and then started closing the roof from the top, the whole thing would be doomed. It was already autumn, it was raining, and with the speed my builders were working, closing the top could take weeks. I could already see the rain pouring in and the wet insulation lying there rotting inside the beams. So I said this wasn't going to happen. After that, one of the builders silently walked off the job. The second one was willing to stay, but didn't come up with any new ideas about how to close the roof. And frankly, I didn't have a clear understanding of the process either. What were you even expecting in the first place? You might ask. How was this supposed to be done? What did the project say? The project drawings looked fine, but I didn't know how exactly to implement them. I thought, well, I have builders, they must know. So I spent a couple of days scratching my head. And then I remembered a friend of mine who once built a house for another friend of mine. That's just how things work with us. I wrote to him, told him my troubles, explained the whole situation. Andry said, no problem, hold my beer, I'll be there soon. A weight fell off my shoulders. Finally, someone among us knew what to do with this roof. Andry arrived with all his tools and, despite his impressive size, started practically floating around the roof. We became his helpers, bringing things, cutting 1-inch boards and blocks with a miter saw, lifting them and the OSB sheets up to the roof. What Andrei did up there was nothing like what I expected. For some reason, I thought the roof had to be closed layer by layer over the entire surface. Cover the whole roof with a wind barrier, then attach battens across the whole thing, then nail the entire grid, then cover the whole roof with OSB. But Andry did the entire stack of layers at once. He first made a small working platform for himself at the top, and then moved forward from there. Here's how the roof pie turned out. The I-beams are covered with a wind barrier. On top of the wind barrier, we nail 5 centimeters battens in my case. On top of the battens, we mount a grid of 1-inch boards. On the 1-inch boards, we nail OSB sheets, by the way. You have to be extremely careful with OSB sheets stacked on the roof. If you step on such a stack, you almost certainly slide downhill. They slide against each other amazingly well. A couple of notes on the installation process. We first attached the wind barrier to the beams with a stapler, left gaps between the batten ends for ventilation, made the grid with a 150mm spacing, and left expansion gaps between OSB sheets. If I remember correctly, Andrei finished the whole roof in 5 or 6 days. But he only worked on weekends, so from the start of the job to closing the roof with the final sheet took almost 3 weeks. That completed his part of the work. It cost me 25,000 rubles. When the roof was covered with OSB sheets, we began sealing the joints with waterproof mastic, coating it with bitumen primer, and installing the drip edge. Then came the stage of torching the roofing material. And here I also decided to bring in specialists who work with this stuff and know exactly what to do. I found a crew on Avito, led by a foreman named Arman, who quoted me 60,000 rubles for all the work including materials. I agreed. I just wanted to finally be done with this roof. So Armin and his crew arrived, and the shashlik began. Just kidding. The shashlik came later. Armin arrived and they started lifting roll roofing materials up to the roof. Or simply put, roofing felt. Or as it used to be called, tall. They torched it on in 2 layers. The first one without top granules. The second one with granules, which protect the material from UV. They handled the entire roof in a couple of days and did an excellent job. I was very satisfied. The result looked great. I can't give you exact pricing in this video, and those prices aren't relevant anymore anyway. All this happened back in 2020. More than 5 years have passed and prices have changed 100 times. Guys, I want to remind you that in my construction videos, I'm not trying to set an example or show you the right way to do things. I'm simply sharing my experience and my mistakes. Someone might find them useful. Judging by this video, I'm more like an anti-example of how things should not be done. From the approach to the techniques, later, when everything was finished. I learned that the height of the counterbatten for a roof with this slope should have been more than 50 millimeters, because it needs a larger ventilation gap. Also, the roof definitely needs aerators. Well, those can be installed anytime. That's all for today. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm already editing a new video. See you soon.